It was late in the evening. The house was quiet, except for the low sound of voices coming from the living room. Adora, 34 years old, a single mother of two, had only recently moved back to her parents' house after her husband walked out on her. She was on her way to the kitchen when she heard her parents talking. Their voices were low, but sharp enough to make her stop. She took a few slow steps closer, hiding behind the hallway wall. Her mother's voice cut through the silence, cold and full of judgment. Adora's children, they should be grateful if Kayamika gives them her leftovers. They're not the same as her sister's children. Those ones have fathers who matter. Adora froze. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. Her hands went cold as her heart began to pound painfully in her chest. Then her father spoke, his voice calm but cruel. She made her bed. She can't expect us to treat bastards the same as real grandchildren. The words hit her like a slap. Her knees felt weak. She reached for the wall to steady herself, her fingers trembling. All this time, she had believed she was home, a safe place to start over with her children. But in one moment, that safety vanished. The house that had once felt warm now felt like a cage. Tears filled her eyes, but she bit her lip to keep from making a sound. They couldn't know she was listening. They couldn't see her break. She stayed there for a long time, standing in the dark hallway, hearing every cruel word echo in her head. Her parents, the people she trusted most, saw her children as less, as unwanted. Finally, she took a shaky breath, wiped her tears, and whispered to herself, her voice barely audible. So this is what they really think of me. And in that moment, Adora knew that something inside her had changed forever. Adora once had what many people would call a perfect life. She was married to Tund, a handsome and charming man from a well-known and respected family. Together, they built a beautiful home filled with laughter and love. When their daughter Zara was born, Adora felt her world was complete. 2 years later, she gave birth to a baby boy, Kamsi, and believed her dreams had come true. But things began to change slowly. Tund's family, especially his mother, started finding faults in everything Adora did. They said she was too proud, that she acted like she was better than everyone else. And when she didn't have a third child, a boy, they started whispering that she was infertile for a son. Tund began to grow distant. He stopped defending her and started spending more time outside the house. Adora tried to hold on, praying that things would get better, but the marriage only got colder. One day, she found out he was cheating with a woman his family approved of. When she confronted him, he didn't deny it. Instead, he told her that she had changed, that she wasn't the same woman he married. After that, he left, just like that, without looking back. Adora packed her things and took her children to her parents' home. She thought, at least there, she would be safe. At least there, she would be loved. But her parents were not the comforting arms she hoped for. They welcomed her politely, but there was no real warmth. Her mother often sighed when she saw her, saying things like, "I warned you about being too proud." Her father barely spoke to her. It didn't help that her younger sister, Kayamika, lived next door. Kayamika was everything their parents bragged about. Married to a wealthy banker, always dressed in expensive clothes, her children attending the best private schools in town. She loved showing off her life and never missed a chance to remind Adora of her failures, though she did it with fake sweetness. "Don't worry, sister," Kayamika would say with a smile. "Things will get better. Not everyone's husband is as strong as mine." Adora would just smile quietly and say nothing. Her parents always compared them. If Kayamika bought a new car, her mother would say, "You see how responsible your sister's husband is?" If Adora came home tired from teaching, her father would shake his head. "If only you had listened to us, you'd have been living like Kayamika now." It hurt deeply, but Adora kept her peace. She focused on her children and her job as a teacher at a local school. The pay was small, but she loved the work. Every morning, she walked her children to school before heading to her classroom. Every evening, she helped them with their homework, trying her best to give them a normal, happy life. She taught them to be kind, respectful, and strong. She didn't want them to feel the bitterness that filled her heart sometimes. She wanted them to believe they were loved, even if the world around them made them feel less. Sometimes she would sit on her bed at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering where she went wrong. She had done everything right, been a loyal wife, a caring daughter, a good mother. Yet somehow, she was still the one who ended up broken, pitted, and judged. Still, Adora believed her parents loved her. She thought they just didn't know how to show it. She believed that deep down, they were proud of her for being strong despite everything. That belief kept her going. Until that one night. That one night when she walked down the hallway and heard her parents talking. The night she realized their love had limits. That to them, her worth had vanished with her husband's name. After that night, everything changed. The home she thought was her refuge became a reminder that love in her family came with conditions, and pity had replaced respect. The next morning, Adora tried to act like everything was normal. She helped her children get ready for school, fixed her hair, and forced a smile as she walked into the kitchen. But every word from her parents felt heavy now, like hidden knives behind soft tones. Her mother was already at the breakfast table, laughing with Kayamika, who had brought her kids over before school. The smell of fried eggs filled the air, but Adora noticed that none had been set aside for her children. "Good morning, Mama," Adora greeted softly. Her mother gave a brief nod, her eyes already back on Kayamika's children. "Good morning, my darlings," she said sweetly to them, wiping one of their faces with a napkin. "You're always so well-behaved. Your mother is raising you right." Adora's daughter, Zara, reached for her glass of milk. Her small hands trembled, and the glass tipped over, spilling milk across the table. Her mother's voice rose instantly, sharp and cold. "You children don't know how to behave. You're just like your mother, always careless." The words stung. The room went quiet. Kayamika chuckled softly, pretending to calm the situation. "Mama, it's just milk. They're children." But there was a smirk behind her voice that Adora didn't miss. Adora kept her head down, cleaning up the mess quietly. She didn't say a word, but inside her chest was burning. After breakfast, she took her children to school and went to work as usual. But all day, her mother's words echoed in her mind. "Just like your mother, just like your mother." Later that evening, when she came home, she found Kayamika waiting in her room. She was sitting on Adora's bed, looking perfectly put together as always. "Sister," Kayamika said, smiling sweetly, "Mama is just worried about you. You know how she is, she only means well." Adora sighed, folding some clothes. "She humiliates me in front of my children, Kayamika. How is that love?" Kayamika tilted her head. "Maybe if you tried harder, she'd respect you more. You can't expect people to treat you the same when your life has fallen apart." Adora froze for a moment. "My life hasn't fallen apart," she said quietly. "I'm just rebuilding it." Kayamika shrugged, her tone light but cutting. "Well, do it fast. People are talking, you know. It doesn't look good, staying here so long." When Kayamika left, Adora sat on her bed and stared at the wall for a long time. Her heart hurt, but she also felt something new, anger mixed with determination. That night, after putting Zara and Kamsi to sleep, she opened her laptop and began searching for small apartments to rent. She had very little money, but she didn't care. She just knew she couldn't let her children grow up in a house where they were treated as less. But before she could finish, she heard footsteps in the hallway. Her parents entered her room without knocking. Her mother stood with crossed arms. "We heard you're planning to move out," she said sharply. "After all we've done for you?" Adora looked up, tired and drained. "I just want to live peacefully, Mama." Her father's voice was calm but full of judgment. "You're being ungrateful. You always play the victim. When will you stop blaming everyone else for your mistakes?" Something inside Adora snapped. She stood up suddenly, her eyes filled with tears. "Stop acting like you don't know what you said," she cried. "I heard you last night. Every single word." Silence filled the room. Her mother's face went pale. Her father's eyes widened slightly, but then his expression hardened. "If you can't respect us," he said coldly, "then pack your things and leave." Adora stood there, breathing heavily, tears running down her face. Her mother looked away, refusing to meet her eyes. For a long time no one said anything. Then Adora whispered, "I will." And in that moment she knew there was no home left for her here. Adora struggled to find a new place to live, but everything was too expensive. Every time she checked an apartment listing, the rent made her heart sink. She had some savings, but it wasn't enough to pay rent, buy furniture, and still feed her children. Days turned into weeks, and her situation became harder. She continued going to work as a teacher, pretending everything was fine, but inside she was breaking. Her colleagues started whispering behind her back after they heard she was moving out of her parents' house. "Did you hear?" one of them said in the staff room. "She's leaving her parents' home again. Maybe she can't handle life with anyone." Another replied, "Poor woman. She should have just stayed married." Adora heard those words as she entered the room. The pity in their voices stung worse than insults. She smiled weakly, pretending she hadn't heard, but her chest felt heavy all day. That evening, Kayamika's husband, Charles, stopped by her classroom. He was tall, confident, and always wore an expensive suit. "Adora," he said smoothly, "Kayamika told me about your situation. I might be able to help you." Adora felt a small flicker of hope. "Help me? How?" He smiled faintly, but there was something in his tone that made her uneasy. "I need someone trustworthy at home. Maybe to handle some house chores and look after the kids. It's just until you get back on your feet. I'll pay you well." Adora froze. "You want me to work as your housekeeper?" He shrugged. "It's honest work. You shouldn't be too proud. After all, you need the money." Her face burned. The humiliation was sharp and deep. "Thank you," she said, her voice shaking. "But I'll manage on my own." He smiled again, a little too pleased with himself. "Suit yourself," he said, walking away. When she told her parents what had happened, she expected them to be angry at Charles. Instead, her father sighed. "You should have accepted. He was trying to help. You can't afford to be picky." Her mother nodded. "Sometimes humility is better than pride, Adora. You made your choice. Don't come to us when things get tough." And with that, they cut her off completely. No food, no help, no support. It broke her heart, but she refused to beg. Within a few weeks, she managed to rent a small single-room apartment in a rough part of town. The walls were cracked, and the tap barely worked, but it was hers. For the first time in a long while, Adora and her children had a space of their own. Zara asked one night as they unpacked boxes, "Mummy, are we going to be okay here?" Adora smiled softly, hiding her worry. "We'll be more than okay, my love. We'll start fresh." Life wasn't easy, but Adora found small joys in their new beginning. She began tutoring neighborhood children in her living room after school. At first, it was just one student, then 2, then 5. Parents started spreading the word that she was kind, patient, and good with children. Slowly, her little tutoring job began to grow. She earned enough to buy a small fridge, then a second-hand sofa. The kids laughed more often. They still didn't have much, but they had peace. Meanwhile, things weren't as perfect next door. Kayamika's once glamorous life began to crumble quietly. Her husband, Charles, had started staying out late. She heard whispers about him at the bank, rumors of cheating, of lies. She tried to keep smiling in public, pretending everything was fine, but at night she cried alone. Her parents noticed the change but said nothing. Pride kept Kayamika silent. Then one rainy evening, Adora heard a knock on her door. When she opened it, she was shocked to see Kayamika standing there, soaked and trembling. Her eyes were red from crying. "Ada, can I come in?" she whispered. Adora hesitated. Memories rushed through her mind. Every insult, every moment she'd been looked down on. But then she saw her sisters shaking hands and stepped aside. "Come." Kayamika sat on the edge of the bed, her voice breaking. "Charles, he's been cheating. I found out months ago. I thought I could fix it, but now everyone knows. His business is in trouble too. I don't know what to do." Adora looked at her quietly. For years, she had imagined this moment, her proud sister finally humbled. But instead of joy, she felt sadness. She poured her some tea and said gently, "You don't have to go through this alone." Kayamika wiped her tears. "After everything I said to you, after how Mama treated you, why would you even let me in?" Adora smiled faintly. "Because I know how it feels when the people you love make you feel small." For a long time they sat in silence. Two sisters who had been divided for years finally saw each other clearly. That night, Adora realized something powerful. Her sister was never truly her enemy. They were both victims of the same thing. Their parents' favoritism and judgment had poisoned the love between them. In that tiny room, with rain tapping softly on the window, something began to heal. Not the past, not completely, but the bond between two sisters who finally understood that they had both been hurt, just in different ways. News spread quickly that Kayamika's husband, Charles, had been arrested for fraud. It was all over the papers and social media. His picture was everywhere. The once respectable banker now in handcuffs. The news hit the family like a storm. Neighbors whispered. Friends stopped calling. Their parents, who had always bragged about Kayamika's perfect life, now hid inside their house, too ashamed to face anyone. For years, they had looked down on Adora. But now, the daughter they had mocked was the only one with her head held high. A few days later, Adora got a call from her mother. Her voice was shaky but still tried to sound firm. Ada, we need you to come home. This family needs to stand together now. People are talking. It will look bad if you stay away. Adora was silent for a few seconds, then said softly, You didn't care what people said when I was the one struggling. Why does it matter now? Her mother sighed. Don't be difficult, Ada. You know how people can be. We must show family unity. Adaora's voice was calm, but full of quiet strength. Family doesn't discard people when they're down. You only remember me now because you're afraid of shame. There was silence on the other end of the line. Then her mother said coldly, Your father wants to speak with you. Her father's voice came next, deep and heavy. Adora, we all make mistakes. You're still our daughter. Don't embarrass us by staying away. Adora took a deep breath. I used to think I needed your approval, Papa. I tried so hard to make you proud. But now I know I only needed peace. Her father didn't reply. He just exhaled and hung up. A week later, the family gathered at the parents' house. Kayamika had been released on bail, but she was pale and tired. Her once proud eyes looked empty. Adora came because her sister asked her to. When she entered, the room fell quiet. Her mother's eyes softened, but her father avoided her gaze. Kayamika stood up slowly, her hands shaking. Adora, she began, her voice breaking. I owe you an apology. For everything. For laughing when Mama insulted you. For judging you. For thinking I was better than you. Adora felt her throat tighten. She didn't know what to say. Kayamika continued, tears rolling down her face. You were always stronger than me. I was jealous. You lost everything, but you still stood tall. I had everything, but I was empty inside. Her mother began to cry quietly. Please, my daughters, she whispered. No more fighting. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I thought I was protecting you both, but I only caused pain. Adora looked at her mother, the same woman who once called her children lesser. For the first time, she saw not anger, but regret. Mama, Adora said softly, I forgave you a long time ago. I just needed to heal before coming back. Her father finally looked up, his face filled with shame. Ada, I failed you. I was proud, and I didn't see your worth. You're the strong one in this family. The room was silent, except for the sound of quiet sobs. Adora walked over to Kayamika and hugged her. Both sisters cried in each other's arms, years of hurt melting away in that moment. For once, Adora didn't feel small or unwanted. She felt whole. Not because her family finally saw her, but because she had found strength within herself. Outside, the world still talked about Kayamika's husband's scandal. But inside that small living room, something powerful happened. The walls of pride, judgment, and comparison finally broke down. The daughter they once looked down on had become the pillar that held the family together. Months later, Adaora's life has completely changed. Her small tutoring lessons have grown into a proper learning center called Second Chance Academy. What began with a few neighborhood children has now become a place where many parents bring their kids to learn and find hope. Adora teaches not just subjects, but also confidence and kindness. Lessons she learned through pain. She's no longer the woman who cried herself to sleep. She walks with calm strength. Her children, Zara and Kamsi, laugh more often now. Zara helps her with class materials, while little Kamsi proudly tells everyone, My mommy owns a school. Adora has become financially stable. She pays her rent with ease and even supports a few struggling mothers by giving them part-time teaching work. The community respects her deeply. She's known as Teacher Ada, a woman who rose again after being broken. One warm afternoon, as she's closing up the center, she hears a knock. She opens the door and freezes. It's her parents. They look older, quieter, almost nervous. Her mother holds a basket of fruit. Her father avoids her eyes. For a moment, Adora doesn't know what to say. Then she simply steps aside and says, Please come in. They sit in the small but neat office of Second Chance Academy. The walls are painted light yellow, decorated with children's drawings and motivational quotes. Adora pours them tea, her movements calm and respectful, but distant. Her father clears his throat. Adora, we've been meaning to visit for a long time, he begins. We've seen what you've done here. You've made us proud. Her mother's eyes glisten. She whispers, voice trembling. We were wrong, Ada. We should have supported you when you needed us most. I see now how strong you are. Adora listens quietly. The words she once longed to hear don't bring tears, only peace. She smiles gently and says, Thank you, Mama. But I learned something through all of this. Love without respect isn't love at all. You can't truly care for someone if you don't value them. Her parents nod, ashamed but relieved. The air is heavy with emotion, but also healing. When they leave, her mother hugs her tightly for the first time in years. Adora hugs back, not from pain but from understanding. As they walk away, Zara runs up to her mother and asks, Mom, are Grandma and Grandpa okay? Adora smiles softly. They will be, sweetheart. Sometimes people take time to see the truth. That evening, as the sun sets behind her little academy, Adora locks the door and looks at the sign again. Second Chance Academy. It's more than just a school. It's her life story. Proof that even when the world rejects you, you can build yourself again. Adora takes her children's hands and walks home, peaceful, proud, and free. Adora walks her kids home from school, holding their small hands in hers. The sun is beginning to set, casting a warm glow over the quiet street. Zara skips beside her, glancing up with curious eyes. Mummy, she asks, are we rich now? Adora laughs softly, a sound full of calm and warmth. We're rich in peace, my love. That's all that matters, she says, squeezing their hands gently. As they turn a corner, Adora notices Kayamika across the street. Her sister is waving, a small, shy smile on her face. She looks different now, humbled, quiet, trying to rebuild her life. Adora meets her gaze and smiles back, not with anger or pride, but with release. For the first time in years, there is no heaviness in her chest. She feels free. She doesn't need to prove anything to anyone anymore. Her children are happy, her heart is calm, and her life is finally hers again. As they walk on, Adora looks up at the sky, taking a deep, peaceful breath. She whispers to herself, a soft truth she has learned through pain and struggle. Sometimes, the people who look down on you are only teaching you how to stand taller. And with that, she keeps walking, her children laughing beside her, the future wide open and full of hope. Hey friends, thanks for watching till the very end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing stories. See you next time.